All right, how many people watching this, just for the sake of curiosity, got an ad for Temu or Temu, however you want to say it, directly before this very video? Odds are the number's pretty high, substantially high, because Temu, whatever, has become one of the largest advertisers on all of Google. Honestly, the gravity of that statement probably isn't fully felt. A lot of people will just brush it off, so let me explain. Temu is the #1 downloaded free application on all of Android and iPhone in the entire United States as of September 2023. They have now surpassed Walmart in terms of direct ad spending, according to CJ&Co industry trends, while their Super Bowl advertisement propelled their growth even beyond competing brands like Target in Q1 of the same year. According to an investigation by Wired, the application and the company behind it, PDD Holdings, loses roughly $30 per order due to subsidized shipping and pricing models, but the app itself is now growing by roughly 30 million downloads per month, with well over 100 million active users. That's not the entire picture. There's plenty more I could say about scale and market dominance, but the gist of it is that Temu is now a global contender for the top slot in all of consumer retail. That's why you see it all day, every day on social media websites like YouTube. So why does it matter? Well, it matters because in early September of 2023, a firm called Grizzly Research released a report online detailing that Temu contains the full array of characteristics associated with aggressive malware. And while it's certainly not the first time that the application has been scrutinized, this report kicked up a lot of dust in the online sphere and brought Temu back to the forefront of conversation. AKA, YouTubers are making videos now, even though the broad subject has been covered before by plenty of creators, and it caught my eye this time, so now I want to do it too. So here's my video. With all of that said, let's dive in. This is the report right here from Grizzly Research, which outlines that Temu, even beyond applications like TikTok, which is widely regarded as borderline CCP spyware already, showcases all 18 core characteristics of an application designed to aggressively violate user privacy, with statements such as, quote, very selective activation of the most invasive features, or Temu's ability to call them on demand from servers in China, or sideload even more invasive behavior into updates or dynamic runtime compilation, is all looming in the risk profile of the installed Temu app, end quote. The report itself is very long, very detailed, although some of those details, to be truthful, don't actually make any sense from a technical perspective, and it's full of alarming opinions, the report is, but for today, I want to focus on being as balanced as possible. It's all about the information, not the message, and by the time we've gone through everything, the picture might seem a little bit different. This is the part where we do the corporate tree of life thing because it's necessary, but this time it's pretty short, so don't worry. It'll be over fast. Temu is owned by a company called PDD Holdings, but PDD Holdings also owns a sister application of Temu called Pinduoduo. Pinduoduo, primarily serving mainland Asia, is an extremely similar shopping application when compared to Temu. However, and this is where the justifiable fear comes into play, Pinduoduo was removed from the Google App Store in March of 2023 because it contained malware. The thing is, that's a really nebulous term for a lot of people. It got pulled down because it's malware. Big deal. People sometimes call anti-cheat malware these days, or they classify DRM software as malware in some discussions, so the term gets a little bit muddied in everyday discourse. However, in this particular case, that doesn't really apply, because current and former employees of Pinduoduo, speaking to CNN, I know some people hate CNN, but they got the exclusive, so I kind of have to quote from them here. The original research was from a Tel Aviv cybersecurity firm owned by Check Point, but the story broke through CNN, so it is what it is. Speaking to CNN, employees disclosed that the malware was part of a deliberate initiative to discover and research zero-day Android vulnerabilities. In other words, this was not an accident. It was on purpose, and it was actual malware. Most people likely don't need to hear this part, but that is genuinely scary, okay? It is, because particularly third-party variants of the app could read your personal information, take literal control of your device, they could look at your text messages even, and the result was a full suspension by Google Play for the in-store version. Now, this obviously puts a really aggressive tilt on things. Temu is accused of having malware-like characteristics, and its sister application actually was malware. Unlike somewhat standard rules of comparison I try to go by, one example is a fluke, 2 is a coincidence, and 3 is an actual pattern, stuff like that. When it comes to malware, you don't need the rule of 3. One instance alone is already pretty damning because malware is never a fluke or a coincidence. It's always intentional, no matter what, but even still, there's a bit more here that people do need to know. As a direct result of 3 different Chinese cybersecurity laws, state-sponsored data theft is an actual industry. There is the National Intelligence Law of 2017, the Data Security Law of 2020, and the Cryptology Law of the same year, which in concert make it mandatory for Chinese tech firms to help the government collect, store, and transmit data that they have access to. In simplest terms possible, if a Chinese company has access to your data, by whatever means, they are forced by law to help their government take, store, and use that data as well for whatever purpose. If Pinduoduo was exploiting Android vulnerabilities and gaining total command and control access on your device, well, that means the Chinese government had access as well, if they wanted to. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's a fact. All combined, that's a really scary picture. Temu is losing large amounts of money every single order just to gain market share, rapid market share. A normal practice in some cases, yes, but a very, very aggressive one here. Its sister application was pulled down because the company laced it with malware, affecting millions of users. And any information stolen as a result of those infections, because of mandatory policy, is made available to the Chinese government for whatever purpose they choose. Seems like Grizzly Research might be onto something. Well, maybe, but let's get the full picture. For starters, before you can access the actual data from Grizzly Research, you're faced with a little disclaimer. Quote, "This report and all statements contained herein are the opinions of Grizzly Research LLC and are not statements of fact." End quote. Okay, that's fine, but also changes the tone a little bit. In the world of reporting, opinion and fact are necessarily differentiated, and once you stray into the world of opinion, this video itself as an example is opinion, so take that into consideration as well. Once you enter the world of opinion, the rules are a little bit different. This doesn't mean that the statements made aren't true, it just means that this isn't academic research or factual data analysis. It's an opinion piece with emotional appeal. Again, that can be fine, but further down we find something very crucial to read. Quote, "As of the publication date of Grizzly Research LLC's report, certain Grizzly Research LLC associated persons, as defined hereunder, along with or through its members, partners, affiliates, employees, and/or consultants, clients, and investors, and/or their clients and investors, have a short position in the securities of a covered issuer, and options, swaps, and other derivatives related to these securities, and therefore will realize significant gains in the event that the prices of a covered issuer's securities decline." End quote. Simplified, for those that need it, Grizzly Research has a short position in PDD holdings, which means that if the stock price goes down, they make money. Now, negative news on a company can obviously make the stock price go down. So what they are disclosing here is that they have set themselves up deliberately beforehand to make money if the share price declines, and then release news under the banner of opinion, not fact, that is targeted specifically at making the share price decline. Yet again, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are lying or anything of the sort, but it does mean that they have a clearly stated financial incentive to make the picture look as bad as humanly possible, because downward pressure on PDD stock lines their pockets. That's important for everyone to understand before making any decisions about authenticity. The effects of this are actually quite obvious, by the way. Right here on the graph is when the research was released. Here's the corresponding share decline as a result of said research, which made Grizzly Research an unknown but likely substantial amount of money, and then gradual recovery afterwards. So, on the one hand, yes, Temu is highly suspect, governed by restrictive laws, and certainly exhibits invasive characteristics, some similar to malware. But on the other, skewing the picture to the darkest place possible is financially beneficial to Grizzly Research alone, as an individual entity, causing them to turn a profit from the negative news cycle. It's a definite conflict of interest when you think about the building blocks needed for objective reporting. Temu's tagline is "shop like a billionaire," because everything is so absurdly discounted you don't need to care about the price tag, but everyone should be aware that this kind of late-stage consumerism isn't a good thing. The constant, unending greed to buy more, have more, use more is absolutely impacting modern society. It's fun to order a bunch of new things. I've gone down that road myself, regrettably, more than I'd like to in the past. But the imperative to consume as much plastic junk as possible for a short-lived burst of dopamine is, like I said, short-lived at best. Temu is now one of the most popular apps on all of planet Earth, and all it does at the moment is lose money and ship junk to mostly Americans. That's shitty, to say the very least. And there's a non-0% chance, actually, not just non-zero, a pretty high percent chance, that the entire thing is carefully obfuscated malware. If it is an invasive program, everything it gathers will be subject to mandatory disclosure and usage by the Chinese government, and we already have a historical example of why that could very easily be the case right now. Inversely, being as fair as possible here, the main party antagonist in this story, at least recently, is a research company, with air quotes there, who directly profits from skewing the picture as bad as they can. They could still be right, the danger is still quite obviously real, but everyone has to understand that if they are looking to make the most informed decision possible, which we all should be doing, that they need to see the entire picture. I've been contacted, myself, directly as a YouTuber, like 6 different times by Temu through email. Different emails reaching out, different IPs that they came from. I checked into them. Some of the sketchiest shit I've ever seen in a long time. And maybe that's just people impersonating the brand. I don't know. But the whole thing reeks, at least in my opinion. And I won't be caught dead using their platform, giving them information, or promoting the service, obviously. If you, the viewer, wants to roll those dice, play that Russian roulette, if you will, be my guest, but user beware, because even if the primary critic of a service is financially motivated to be a critic, that doesn't mean that the service itself is safe. Anyway, that's it. Be hypervigilant of ads you see, apps you use, and products that you order, as well as sources of information that seek to tear them down. If you want to support the channel, there are links down below, specifically locals, Patreon, and channel memberships. Those are the most reliable methods, very helpful to the channel. But there's additional things like a cybersecurity product affiliate list for those who want to be more conscious about digital protection, which I highly advise. It's linked down below. And a few more items, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching. I know a lot of people have covered this before, but there's my take on it, and have a nice night.